today I'm going to be giving my first story time ever of when I worked at Cracker Barrel. Okay, so first and foremost, we're going to ignore if the chair squeaks because I'm going to keep moving. So therefore, let's excuse that. And I'm going to be reading off of well, it's not my tablet, but I'm going to be reading off my dad's tablet considering I'm using my phone to record. So, okay, so we're just going to hop right on into the story time. Okay, this has been in the past. This is like almost gonna be a year ago, so we're just gonna roll right into it. Okay, so basically I started working at Cracker Barrel around the beginning of March towards like the end of April of 2023. So let me tell y'all how I even got there. Okay, so when I started working at Cracker Barrel from the beginning of March all the way until the end of April of 2023. So like I said, that's gonna be a year from now. That was definitely during my senior year of high school. Okay, so let me tell y'all, how did I end up here in the first place? It was towards the time of prom and graduation. So like, you know, of course you're a senior and it's the time of prom and graduation. Like, you want to have some money in your pockets to be doing, not necessarily having to do stuff, but it's like, that's like kind of the most expensive time of your senior year. So, you know, I just felt like I needed to get a job, okay? Like, I just wanted to have the comfort of spending my own money and just like actually going to go get a job. Because this is ending up being my first job. So I find that very interesting when I tell people. Okay, so I downloaded Indeed and I was going through jobs in my area. There's like a bunch of jobs in my area and there was like other restaurants. So I don't even know what made me want to pick Cracker Barrel. But I applied for Cracker Barrel considering they would take me since I had like no experience. Like I've never worked anywhere prior to that. So this is I'm like, oh, you know, they're going to give me a chance. Like, you know, servers, like there's always young girls doing that. So I'm like, why not? And it's not, I mean, it was far enough from where I live, but like it wasn't too far, and I had a car, so like it wasn't crazy, like it wasn't just outrageous to go. So I ended up applying because, you know, why not? And I ended up getting a text message that they would like to interview me. I ended up getting a text message, and so it was during the week after school. I went to the interview. I ended up going to the interview, and I had all my documents. Like, you have to provide everything like a regular job. So, you know, I've never done that before. I'm like, well, darn, I gotta get all these documents. Like, I don't even know what the heck these are. And so I had all my documents, and the girl ended up asking me like basic questions. She was like, oh, why do you want this job? What do you get at? Like, what are your extracurricular? Like, why do you want this? Like, all them questions. And so, oh, and like, what are your hours? That's a key factor. So just keep that in mind. And so we get done with that, and she goes into the back to go do a background check. So at this time, I'm sitting, because, you know, Cracker Barrel is separated into 3 different dining rooms. So I'm in the 3rd dining room that they had shut off. So, like, there was nobody in there. So I guess I was, like, where they interview people. So that was that. I was sitting in the dining room. And at the time I was texting, I had a friend group at the time. And I was texting the group chat. I'm like, oh, my gosh, I'm here. Like, I'm kind of nervous. I'm on my job interview, da-da-da-da. Because, you know, it's kind of exciting when you get your, like, first job interview, like, feeling real adultish. Like, lady ends up returning, and she was like, we would like to go forward with this. And she was like, okay, we would like to go forward with this. Do you want to, like, do you agree with whatever? So I'm like, yes, okay, I want to go through with it. And so she gives me some papers to fill out, and I guess at that time that was like the actual papers of like what hours and like my name and like all this basic stuff, like how much I want to be paid, all that. I mean, at the time I didn't know how much servers got paid, but I realized it here, okay? And then a few days go by, and boom, I go to orientation. Orientation, I believe it was sometime at night. I had to go like sometime at night, I think, for that. And so it was like me and 3 other people. We were sitting in this small manager's office. And we know Cracker Barrel, you know, through the kitchen, the like manager's office is like right there on the side. So like it is a small room, bro. Like that, my nerves were all the way up. They gave us an apron, a name tag, a menu, a notepad, a clear bag, and some papers. Like when we walked in, all that stuff was already sitting at the table. And that's when I realized, I was like, oh, like other people gonna be here. That's kind of crazy. So we introduced ourselves to each other, and the lady asked us questions about ourselves. We wrote down our answers on a paper and just read it out loud. And it was questions like, what do we do in our free time? Like, who was our favorite singers? Like, what do we listen to? Like, stuff like that. Because I remember my answer. I was like, I love Justin Bieber. Like,
Immediately no. I'm telling you right now, I seen what I needed to see.
People, it's kind of corny and kind of outplayed, but like, I don't care. Like, That's what I said. So she gets into reading the overview of like our jobs, because each of us had like different jobs. Like I was there to be a server, and somebody else was to be working in the store, and there was like a cook and a to-go order and all that. Throughout the rest of my time working there, I would see the other girl that was working in the store, and I would see the to-go guy. Like we would pretty much work with each other. But like the other person, I never saw him. Like I have no idea what happened with that. And then we watched multiple videos on what goes on at Cracker Barrel, like the menus, what to wear, how to sign up to get paid, like the taxes, like all that stuff. Like the videos were short, but I was really thinking like, I can't believe y'all actually like record these videos, bro. And so then we went on a tour of the back of the restaurant just to know where everything was. So like everybody was in there working, and we were just walking around to like, so we'll know where stuff is. I mean, I wasn't gonna remember it anyway. But you know, so then we actually sat at a table in the third dining room, and we sat at like the big table in the corner. So we all sat there, and she was like, y'all can order whatever. So we ordered food, and that was just a time for us to get to know each other and just, yeah, make us feel comfortable, I guess. Towards the end of the night, we ended up getting on a computer that was in the office, and we did a thing to fill out our taxes. And you know me, I'm like, I have no idea how to do that, but okay. Then she told us we had to go 3 days of training before we could be by ourselves and actually go out and do table stuff by ourselves. So I was like, you know, that's good, but like 3 days seems kind of like, am I gonna learn everything in 3 days? I surely hope not, because she was emphasizing that we learn the menu. That's a lot of mix and matches, I'm not gonna lie. So after that, during the weekend, me and my mom went to go find clothes. So with Cracker Barrel, you have to wear at least white, blue, or pink like shirts, and like black pants or khaki pants with black work shoes. So I owned none of those. Okay, like I did not own any of that. So we went to Goodwill, and like surprisingly, I actually found so many shirts. Like I found so many white, pink, and blue shirts that I was like, darn, okay. And they were collared, buttoned up. Okay. I already had some black jeans, and I had like a pair of khaki pants, and I think that was all I had starting off with. And I had black boots already in my closet that I thought would be used for this, but we'll see. And eventually they ended up like killing my feet. Like that junk was literally hurting. But training, so I believe training was during my spring break, and I worked from like 9 to 2. Okay, and I only had one night training. So for the nighttime training, I was with the actual manager for that night. I was just on the computer the whole time. Like I was learning how to plug in orders. Like, you know how you walk, so you Cracker Barrel, you have the dining rooms, and then you have like the little cut thing where all the servers are. So that's where I was. Like I spent all those hours just there. She would give me like little practice orders, and I would go press the buttons, tighten them in, how to do receipts, all that. So like that's how I just spent the whole night. And then for the daytime training, I was working with this lady who was working there for many years. She was so sweet about everything. Like she actually had a good personality. But you know me, I was just getting nervous. Like I had a mask on this whole time. Like my whole time working at Cracker Barrel, I had a mask on because, girl, I did not want to see no one I knew. And I was like scared, bro. And so when we would go to the tables, she would tell the customer that it was my first time, and I pretty much just shadowed her for those days. And you know, in the daytime like that, spring break, it's kind of like a packed time because all the kids are out with their grandparents, or like it was hot. So, and I ended up getting a table with a girl who's on the basketball team at my school. Y'all, when I saw her, I was like, oh my gosh. Like we don't talk, but like she saw me, and I'm like, bro, I did not want no one to see me yet. And then here we go, someone already sees me, and I'm on training. Okay, and so during training, you're not allowed to get tips. It must go to whoever is training you. But I did not know this, bro. Like, okay, so the one table I did by myself, and the couple specifically gave me a tip, like in my hand, and told me that I'll do good and I did well for my first time. So like if someone's giving you money in your hand and like you did good, this is for you. Okay, you're like, okay, this is yours, because they gave the lady that was training me a tip too. So it's like, okay, that's fine. And so later on, I get another couple, and they give me a tip. So the lady who was training me came up to me, and once we were cleaning the table, she was like, did they give a tip? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, well, it's mine since I'm training you. And then she sticks out her hand. So I was like, nobody told me this, and you're being kind of rude about it. And I'm like, girl, like you didn't say this earlier. So like I'm very much confused. And so I just gave it to her because I'm not like, it's not that serious. It was like $5. Like I'm not tripping about that. But yeah, it had me feel like she had me thinking I was stealing, and I'm like, girl, take it. So anyway, fast forward. Training is over, and I come to work at night, and now my hours were like 5 to 11. So like I'm new, and I'm meeting all the employees. The employees have really good personalities. Like everyone, they have their different personalities, but everybody was pretty much likable. And so this was all chaotic for me because it was my first time. It's like I was scared of doing tables. Like at this time, I could do a table by myself. Like I was scared to death. But luckily, my coworkers, they were very welcoming and be like, "Oh my gosh, you want help? Da da da. I can show you," things like that. So one of the guys there actually helped me, and he showed me what to do with closing, and he was really sweet. I did not like closing. Like that was just trying to do all that in the end of the night when you're trying to go home. Like ain't nobody trying to do all that. And so at the end of that night, I ended up getting pulled into the manager's office. Like this time I'm with the lady who makes our schedules, and she goes,
"You're out of dress code with those boots."
Them black boots I was talking about, I was out of dress code. I mean, they looked like working shoes, so I'm just like, they're literally black. Like, what do you mean? And they were like, I wouldn't slip in them. Like, they were like slip resistant or not slip resistant. So I'm just like, okay. But also, she didn't know that I just started working there. So she just assumed I was out of dress code, but she didn't know that I just started working. So I was like, I just started working. And I'm like, I just started working here, and they're gripping the floor. So like, like what's wrong? And so she tells me some other shoes to wear to work, and then she talks to me about my schedule. Okay. So I told her, like, even when I had got with the hiring manager, the interview with her, I already said prom graduation coming up. Like, I'm a senior in high school. Prom graduation coming up. There's no beating around it. Like, I have to go to those 2 events. And so I told her about that, and I told her I want to be able to come those days, and she's like, okay, boom. Okay, my night's over. So then at that time, me and my mom ended up going to Marshall's to go find some black work shoes, just some plain like black tennis shoes. And so that was that. At this point, I keep working after school, and sometimes on the weekend. I never really talked to my coworkers except this one girl because she was like younger than me, and we just got along because she had just started working here too. So like, why not? Y'all, this is like my worst experience, like serving or even being a Cracker Barrel. Like, y'all, I was so embarrassed and like I was ready to quit. Like, so one time I had this huge family, like it was like a table of 8, okay? And they had just came in. He came in, it was like the dad. He came in with like all of his in-laws and like his daughters and what. So, he would make a good impression. And I messed up their drinks, and I was taking so long, and I messed up what kind of chicken they wanted. The daughters had read the menu. They had ordered this sort of chicken tenders. And so I went, boom, put it in, and they were like, no, this is not the chicken, da 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 da. And after that, it was so overwhelming. Like, I messed up the drinks and everything. They ended up getting the manager, and my manager came and asked me if I was okay because like
That was so stressful.
And so I just literally wanted to quit. Like I ended up getting no tips. Like, I mean, of course I wouldn't, because like I did a terrible job. Like, I'll say that. Like, it was just too much for me. Like, I'm never doing that again. Time goes by, and it's time for prom, and I see that I'm put on the schedule for prom. And so I text my manager, and I'm like, hey, I'm posting on prom when I'm already set these days. I can't come even before I was hired. And she's like, okay, we will look into it. So I'm like, okay. So boom, week of prom happens, and I'm just like, okay, I'm scheduled, but like I'm not coming. This is an important event that I'm not gonna have again, so like I'm not going. Like, bro, I'm going to prom. So I end up not going to work that day, and I go to prom because prom's on a Saturday. So boom, I'm doing prom. And so the next time I'm scheduled after school, and I come into work fully prepared. Like, I'm after school, ready to go to work, da 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 da. I walk into the server booth thing, and I see my name is scratched off in black marker. Like, I kid you not, it was so scratched off that I knew it was mine, because everybody else's name was up there, and it was like in Sharpie, like all the way freaking knocked out. And so I didn't ask nobody. I didn't ask no questions.
I don't even want to do no research on that shit.
Okay, no questions. I went back into my car, and I called my dad, and I'm like,
yo, I just got fired.
He's like, okay. And I told him about the whole marker thing, and he was like, okay, we'll just come home or go to your grandmother's. So that's what I did. Like, not really tripping about it. And so that later on, I think towards like after the shift was over, I get a text from the hiring manager like,
hey, why didn't you come in?
What do you mean, why did I come in? I told you for weeks, even before I got hired, I was like, I'm not coming. And so I gave her the whole rundown of prom and how when I walked into my shift, my name was completely blacked off.
You're done. You're done.
And so she was like, oh, well, you should still ask, and she said the other things I don't remember. But I'm like, what you mean I should still ask? And so after that, I didn't respond, and I just deleted the thread. I deleted the thread. Bro, this is something I do every time, like, I get irritated. Like, I'll delete the whole thread, I deleted the number, and I ended up throwing all my Cracker Barrel stuff away. Like, I threw away the aprons, the name tag, I think. I threw, like, all that away. Like, I'm not, what do I still need it for? I'm not gonna role play this. Like, I don't know what to do. But I did keep the little server tablet thing, because, like, I'm still finding pieces of it, so, like, that's kind of crazy to me. But honestly, that was my experience at Cracker Barrel. I personally, it was not a bad experience. It was just an interesting experience since I have never had a job before. So I'm not saying nothing against Cracker Barrel. I love the food, okay? And that's the thing. There were good and bad. Like, the bad about Cracker Barrel was the scheduling at the time, because it was just bad. And then the trays. Like, y'all see how big them trays are, and my arms are not. So, like, my arms would be burnt up. Like, all that heat, and it was just heavy. But the good of it, oh my gosh, I would come home with strawberry lemonade every single night. I would go to the machine, put my drink in, and boom. Like, I love that. Or, like, whatever excess food was left you could eat. So I'm just like, bro, the strawberry lemonade, I miss that, if anything. But yeah, like I said, Cracker Barrel was not a bad experience. It was just a learning experience of, like, things you know what to do and what not to do again. So, you know, guys, if you want to try it, I highly recommend it. Just if you want to learn something. But yeah, basically that concludes today's story time of me working at Cracker Barrel for, like, almost a month. And if you guys have any other story times that you, like, recommend or anything, comment them below. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Don't play with it, don't be dishonest. Ay, still not understand.